What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Wing and Tail Boys podcast, your Northeast hunting and fishing destination. I'm Chris.
And I'm Angelo.
And we're your hosts. Join us as we navigate the woods and waters of the Northeast, sharing our passion for the outdoors.
Whether it's land management, outdoor recreation, hunting, or fishing, we're going to cover it all. With 40 plus years of experience in the Northeast, we'll provide insights, tips, and stories to help you make the most of your adventures and help you experience the wild.
So, tune in, grab your gear, and let's hit the woods together. And always remember, success is just a commitment away. What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Wing and Tail Boys podcast. Thank you for joining us here for another episode this week. As I record this intro, it is Tuesday, April 22nd, and I am proud to inform you that I am officially a first-time dad, and it is absolutely surreal. On Friday evening, 9:17, little Liliana J. Romano joined my wife and I in this world, was welcomed by a whole bunch of family, both at the hospital at the time of delivery and over the next couple of days. We were fortunate enough to come home for Easter dinner and to share dinner with some family also who welcomed Liliana home. And it's just been an absolute dream I'm waiting to wake up from. It has just been absolutely magical. I don't know how else to put it. Being a dad is amazing. Absolutely, absolutely amazing. So born Friday night, 9/17, at a healthy 7 pounds, 5 ounces, 20.5 inches. Just an absolute blessing. So if you guys are watching at home and I look exhausted, it's because I am. We have been scrounging for every second or minute of sleep that we could find over the last few days, but we're working together, Danielle and I, making it happen, and it's just been great. So if any of you guys out there at home are first-time parents, new parents, or have some experience in this and you have any advice for us, feel free to leave it on down below. We're open to just about anything, and we're just enjoying the ride, and every day is a new experience. So it's just been a really, really, really great few days. With that being said, today's episode is an exciting one. We are running our second installment of the NorthEastern Hunters Showcase series, where I'm going to be welcoming Steve Milosh from Southern New Jersey to join us and talk about New Jersey and Northeastern hunting. To give you guys a quick background, and I talk about this in depth in the episode, but I started looking around and I found Steve on YouTube, and I love the video that he had posted. I love the way that he had recorded it. I love the story that he told, and the story that we showcase today, it might not be the biggest deer to some of you, but it is a true testament to New Jersey hunting and what it's like to hunt these pressured areas in New Jersey, whether it's private land or public land. So it was a really, really great episode with some really great information. We talk all about deer hunting. We talk about taking the skills and the tactics learned in New Jersey and applying them in other places to find success, but also talking about the differences between New Jersey and some of these other places. So I just want to take a quick second to thank some of our sponsors here, and we're just going to get rolling right into this episode. So again, thank you so much for joining us here for another episode this week. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please take a second, leave a review down below. 5-star review goes a very, very long way in helping our channel out. With that being said, let's talk a little bit about spring food plotting. It is, again, the end of April going into May. We are right in the heat of spring food plot, summer food plot. If you guys are looking for any information, knowledge, education, if you're looking for seed for your spring or summer food plots, look no farther. Vitalize Seed has got you covered. Vitalize Seed has their 1-2 punch. You plant your nitro boost in the summer, you plant your carbon load in the fall, and together they have the perfect balance of carbon to nitrogen and help everything in your soil break down the nutrients and to continue to fertilize your soil over time. Now, if you're just looking for something to plant, maybe that's going to last a little bit longer, maybe you're interested in a perennial, or something like you need something more of like a cool season for the spring in advance of the summer food plotting, they've got you covered with 2 different clover blends. So head on over to vitalizeseed.com and check out what they have for you today. Also, want to take a quick minute to thank Gerard over at Rack Getter's Scents. Rack Getter has everything you need for deer lure, deer attractant, turkey, fish, bear, I know I'm missing some stuff in here, but I mean, Gerard's got it all from a synthetic to natural, scents, lures, attractants, food, minerals, food additives. He's literally got everything you need. Turkey calls. We're in the heat of turkey season. He's got that too. Head on over to rackgetterscents.net and see what Gerard has available for you today. So again, I want to thank you for joining us today. And without further ado, Stephen Milosh. Steve, what's going on, man? Welcome to the Wing and Tail Boys podcast. How you doing today, man?
Good, Chris. Thanks for having me on. I
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
absolutely, man. Thanks for joining us here. Just to give the listeners a little bit of background, I reached out to you. I don't know, what was it, like a week ago, week and a half ago?
Yeah, about a week.
Yeah, I saw a hunt of yours that you had on YouTube. I
Yep.
really liked kind of like the way it laid out, and as soon as I heard you talking in like the first 3 minutes, I was like, this is a typical New Jersey hunt, and I really wanted to showcase that.
Yeah,
We kind of talked a little bit off air before we started here. I really want to start to showcase hunters from our region. I feel like there's a lot of YouTube channels out there. There's a lot of Instagram channels out there,
for
but
sure.
we don't really get. I don't want to say the notoriety because that's kind of like the wrong word to use, but we don't get the attention that some big time hunters from say Iowa or the Midwest or the Western states. Hunters from around here just don't get that.
Yeah.
And the perception that we get from the Northeast is that our hunting is kind of like lackluster or it's not really worth hunting, or people from Jersey are more likely to go out of state to hunt versus other people coming into Jersey, and maybe to our detriment. I'd like to kind of showcase what we have, and the reason I say this is because you just happen to be the first guest that we have on this podcast, but we're kind of starting to go with some of these hunter profiles. So before we get started, why don't you give the listeners a little bit about who you are, your upbringing in hunting, and a little bit about the YouTube channel that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. So to start off, like pretty much I grew up hunting with my family as a young kid. My dad and my uncle and my cousins were always into hunting. They really motivated me to get out. I got my hunting license at the age of 10. Like as soon as it was legal to hunt, I was in the woods. Killed my first deer at 10. And later on down the road, like when I was like 13, 14, started getting into turkey hunting. And then that took off. And I absolutely love turkey hunting and deer hunting, all of it. Yeah, so it was kind of like part of my normal life growing up as a kid with my family and stuff. Going out and doing all of that and meeting new people along the way and be able to experience different kinds of hunting and stuff like that and learning things from every single person. A little bit about me besides hunting or whatever. I mean, hunting is life for me, but outside of that, my daily job, I'm a detective with a local law enforcement agency down here in Jersey. So I get to do that 4 days out of the week, sometimes more. So I really do enjoy it. I've been in law enforcement for about 8-9 years now, so it's been a good time. Back to the hunting thing, like, it got me into watching like other YouTubers and stuff like that. Really got me like motivated to try to get into self-filming and stuff like that, to record for for a YouTube channel or whatever. And the deer behind me right here is one of the reasons that really got me into it. Like I killed that deer. That was at the time my biggest deer. That was back in 2018. And I was like, man, that would have been really cool to have that on film. And like, one day if I was to have a kid or whatever, right now I don't have any kids, I am married, but if I was to have kids or whatever, to be able to share that with them, not only share it with them in the woods, but also to have like a video and stuff to go along, to show the experiences and the journey of hunting in New Jersey and stuff like that. So that really pushed me to start self-filming, and been doing it ever since. That's when my channel Milo Outdoors was born. So started it up, and we've done all kinds of fun stuff on the channel between deer hunting, turkey hunting, pheasant, fishing, you name it, kind of trying to do it all, everything outdoors pretty much.
All right, man. No, that's awesome, and
Yeah,
that just kind of goes to show what New Jersey has to offer. We have decent deer hunting. We have honestly a pretty good amount of turkeys. We have some solid bass fishing. The trout fishing is phenomenal. I don't
it's,
know if you're into trout fishing,
I am.
and not every state has a pheasant program. Some states have wild pheasant, some states have stocking programs, and
Yep,
some states just have nothing. So just on the surface, Jersey has a lot of opportunities for people to get into hunting in whatever way they see fit.
absolutely.
When I was 10, just like you, I got my license, but I started out pheasant hunting. I don't think I deer hunted until I was like 15, 16 years old. And our listeners have heard this before, so I'm not going to bore them with the whole story, but our YouTube channel or podcast, everything kind of spawned in a very similar way to you. Where We kind of similar. Like you're saying it was really cool to record it and share it with your kids when you have them in the future. For
Yep.
me, it was like I just moved to Pennsylvania. My brother still lives in New Jersey. Our best, like my best friend, who I literally consider a brother, he was like one of my best men in my
Yep.
day. He lives in New Hampshire with a couple other friends.
Okay.
My other cousin lives in South Jersey. My other cousin lives in North Jersey. So it's like the older we get, the less time we get to spend together. And the whole point of the YouTube channel in the beginning was just to share experiences with each other. Then,
Absolutely.
then it was like, what if I make a bad shot? It'd be really cool to have it on camera and be able to utilize that. And then it was, well, wait a second. What if I record all this stuff and I lose all the data or I lose all the files? Which is how the YouTube channel started. Like once it's there, it's there forever. It's not going anywhere. So even if like my computer crashes at some point or my external hard drive, dies out on me, these videos will always be there for me to go back and say, see guys, this is where I got my start, and this is
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that too. And like the point you made about like be able to see if you made a bad shot or anything, that has saved me so many times. Like, not saying that I make a lot of bad shots, but if you have a deer that you shot and you're questionable, you're questioning the shot, where the placement was, when your adrenaline's pumping and you're full draw with your bow, man, you don't remember anything. I mean, you could kind of remember the general direction the deer ran, but it happens so fast. Even if you have a lighted knock or whatever like that, it can definitely be deceiving sometimes. So to be able to have that on film, be able to slow it down frame by frame, see where you hit the deer, helps you guide yourself to be like, all right, I need to wait a couple more hours before I go track this thing,
exactly. And let's be honest. Every shot is a great shot until you settle down and really think about it, right? Like
1000%.
I when I was a kid, dude, I missed so many shots with my bow. I mean, so many,
Me
and
too.
every single one, I was like, nah, I got him. And then we go over, and there's like no blood, arrows clean as
No
day.
hair,
It's
no
like
nothing.
not a thing. My uncle goes, "The fuck are you talking about?" We're old school Italian. Like all my family before me is like either from Argentina or from Italy. So like they have that true, that Italian
Yep.
style. So like, what are you talking about? Get the fuck out of here. You know. So when I reached out to you, it was particularly well. Before we get into that, talk to me a little bit about. You said you've been recording since 2018,
Yeah,
roughly. So you're
yeah,
going
around
on like
2018, 2019, I think is
okay.
right when
So
I
like
started.
So you just finished your fifth or sixth season of like solo, like self recording and stuff like that. Talk to me quickly a little bit about some of the struggles that you went through with filming in the beginning and kind of like what your setup was when you started and what your setup is now.
Okay. Yeah. So my original setup when I first got into it was a GoPro, which is like the go-to,
Mm-hmm.
they suck for zooming in. You can't really zoom in on them. So like for turkey hunting, I use GoPros only. When I first got started into it, I did buy a little like Sony Handycam that had incredible zoom on it, but quality was it was okay. I had a muddy camera arm that I used to film on, and it got me by. It worked. It definitely helped out. It wasn't the greatest setup of all, but some challenges I had when it came to filming was missed opportunities, trying to get the shot on camera, movement. It's adding a lot of movement to your hunt, when you're in the stand, constantly moving that camera arm around, zooming in, trying to do everything. So I've definitely had missed opportunities. I've also had where I filmed and I, like, for example, there's a video on my channel. It was my first hunt in Maryland for a sika deer. And I had the camera arm mounted to the tree, but it was not level. I set up in the dark and I should have checked to make sure it was level. And I had this stag come out in front of me and I moved the camera right out in front of me. I had him on camera. As I draw back, I didn't realize it, but because of the wind coming off the marsh, it blew the camera completely back against the tree right as I let the arrow fly. So didn't catch it on film, but I got the aftermath, on film, which was cool. But I've had that happen to me, unfortunately, once or twice. So I definitely have learned to make sure the camera arm's level. Upgrades, I mean, I recently bought a new mirrorless camera, Panasonic G85. Try to get saving up for a better zoom lens so I can get a little bit closer in. Right now, it's only got a 60 millimeter lens on it. As far as like, other gear, I'm still using like 2 GoPros. I have that camera, and I just upgraded to the Lone Wolf pocket arm for the camera arm because it was a lot lighter than the bulky muddy arm that I had that weighed like 6 pounds. It was absolutely ridiculous because I do a lot of walk-in hunting, so weight definitely cuts into a factor.
So I did notice. I was watching. I went back before recording today. I went back and rewatched the video that I had seen that made me want to reach out to you.
Yeah.
And I noticed that you're a saddle hunter. You're doing the saddle thing. I just recently got into saddle hunting, but
Okay.
my setup and my progression is literally you identical, bro. Like I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
So first thing I bought was a GoPro.
Yep.
GoPro, muddy arm, and a Sony Handycam. Literally, those three things are what I brought in the woods with me at first. And the Sony was decent, like you said, good zoom, great for someone starting out. Like I would 100% not recommend anyone try out like a mirrorless at first, unless they're like professional with it, because it's like, wow, you know,
Be different.
Yeah, 100%. Now the cool thing about the Sonys is you could buy a remote for it, and you can control it all from the remote, and you don't have to worry about messing with the camera. So like that hands-off deal is like, it's amazing. Like you can't ask for anything more in the woods. But the playback quality wasn't the greatest. The audio isn't exactly the greatest.
Yeah.
That muddy arm, never mind it being 7.5 pounds, it doesn't fit in anything. It's like you need to give its own compartment.
Literally,
in your backpack.
I have its own compartment in my bag. Yeah.
So the first year, so this is going to be this hunting season coming up is going to be my third season filming. And I made a deal with myself. I will not miss a deer for the camera. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I get it. I have a YouTube channel. I have a podcast. Like I'm trying to like get our name out there, whatever. I will not miss a deer because of the camera. I'll get the filming coming in. I'll get it on shot.
Yep.
But like this past year, I was sitting in a brand new tree, picked it out in the dark, didn't know really where I was. I knew where I was, but like I didn't know where I was getting into the tree. Climbing up, I brought my bow up upside down, so all my arrows fell out with the exception of one. I have one arrow in the tree. My hat falls off while I'm getting ready. My fourth stick fell off my waist as I was climbing. So it was like one thing after another.
Yep.
You know, so I get to my calling sequence and stuff. I call into like a spike, a 4-pointer comes in or whatever. And then I end up calling in these doe. And as I go to draw on her, like before I went to go draw on her, I'm trying to reach behind me for my camera. So the reason I mentioned the saddle hunting thing is because I kind of do like a hybrid deal. I have the XOP, oh my God, I can't remember the name of it right now, but their hybrid stand, they have like a smaller, the retro grade, XOP retro grade.
Yep.
So for the most part, most of the day, I'm sitting down like a normal hunter. And if I need to, I could get around the tree to make those angles. So when I set up, I'm a lefty. I have my bow on my right side and I have my camera set up on my left with my back to the tree. So now as I go to turn, instead of that camera being in front of me, because I set it, you know, instead of setting it up like a saddle hunter and having it in front of me, I had it off to my left with the camera on my right side because I had been filming something earlier. So I'm trying to like reach behind me to grab the camera and I couldn't get it. And I was like, screw it, I'm not missing the shot.
Yeah.
I got it on the GoPro because I have the GoPro above my head facing down at me. And I have like the wide angle.
Yep.
So I got the shot on camera, but I didn't really get the shot on camera.
Yeah, no, it happened to me, man. It happens to all of us.
Yeah. The nice thing about the muddy camera though is, in my opinion, it is one of the easiest cameras to get level. You know, I don't know there's 3 different models of the muddy, so I don't know which one you had.
I had I think it was the basic camera arm. It was like in that like $60 range.
Yeah.
It wasn't the long arm one, like like a big camcorder, like it really extends out, has that big like 45-degree angle bracket on it. This was like their basic one.
I got you.
It's still heavy, and it had a giant ratchet strap on it. And, you know, you're sitting in the stand trying to quietly crank this ratchet strap without making any noise, and I spooked deer going in doing that. It was a pain.
100%. Now I had the next model up, I want to say. So my camera arm was the one that had the adjustment, so you can level it up and down, and you can tilt it if you needed to.
Yeah.
It was great, but dude, it was so freaking heavy. Now I'm looking for it. Oh, I got it right here. Give me 1 second. So over the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, I'm a big DIY guy. My listeners know all about this, and I like building my own stuff. But the past couple of years, I was trying to build my own camera arm. I bought a cheap one, kind of took pieces off it, took some pieces off the muddy, tried to piece that together, and it worked, but it was still heavy. So I actually just recently went out and got the Beast Gear camera arm.
You know, that was on my my list. It was between that and the pocket arm. And I went with the pocket arm. We'll see how I like it, but the Beast, definitely nice.
I'll be honest, the only reason I didn't go with the Lone Wolf was the expense. You know, the Beast Gear was a little bit cheaper. Now, there were 2 things that didn't come with that I had to go out and buy. It didn't come with a level, so I had to find a bubble level of my own. It was like $5 extra for like 8 of them. So whatever, no big deal. And then the threads to hook up the oh my God, what do you call it?
Fluid head?
Yeah, the fluid head. Thank you. The threads for the fluid head were the smaller ones. They were the 1/4 inch. I needed 3/8 inch. So I had to go out and buy an adapter.
Adapter for
again. It was like $5 for 4 of them, so or 6 of them. So out of the box, thing worked great. It just didn't have what I needed to get it
Yeah.
going. Level, just for your same reason, I've had camera creep happen a lot where it's just not level, or you loosen the arms to kind of like get it to move smoothly,
Yep.
and then it doesn't want to lock up and it kind of like drifts or whatever. I set it up. I don't know. I got it in the mail a couple days ago, maybe a week ago now. Installed my pieces, and I've already practiced setting it up and taking it off the tree like 10 different times. And I wasn't sure if it was going to handle the weight, because if you look on the I don't know about the Lone Wolf one, but when you look on the website, there aren't a lot of pictures of people with like full size cameras or anything like that. It's usually handy cams, GoPros, phones.
Smaller stuff.
Exactly. So I cranked it on the tree. I got it set however I wanted, and then I literally like push on it to make sure it's going to hold,
Yep.
and it held perfect.
Awesome.
So now I saved some space in my backpack. I can put my
Yeah.
clothes inside my bag instead of having to strap it to the outside. And now we're on our way.
There you go.
Yeah. So on the gear side, is there anything else that you use? Anything that you feel like really serves to success for you? Or
I mean, just the bow. The bow is a big key for me, obviously. No, I mean, as far as camera gear goes, I mean, that's the main stuff that I use. I mean, I use a Hawk Helium. I think it's Hawk Helium. It's like a screw-in camera, like for a GoPro or whatever. I just screw it in the tree above my head, so I have that downward shot. That really helps me out. And backpack wise, I mean, right now I'm rocking the Cruiser saddlebag. It's nice. It's a little on the heavy side. It's designed really nice, like layout wise, purpose for saddle hunting and stuff, but it's a little on the heavy side.
I got you.
Might be changing that up this year. We'll see.
So I use right now I use the XLP hybrid, like I told you, the hybrid stand, but I also use the hybrid harness. So if I want to go and hunt one of my normal stands on, my presets on our family property,
Yeah.
I have the thing above me because it's got the shoulder straps. If I want to just saddle hunt, I just hook it up at the waist. But now that I've been using it, I think I might want to upgrade to a true saddle, because I feel like I could just hook the bridge up around my back instead of around my front and have it still protect me the same. I don't know. I don't know if it's a safety thing, but
I see guys use it both ways. I mean, I've seen guys use saddles and hunt with them normal, like out of a normal tree stand, and it work. I don't know exactly how they hook up their tether with that. I don't know if I would have to look that up. I've never tried it. If I hunted out of saddle, I hunted out of saddle, and that was it. And I just use my platform and stuff like that. I use a Cruiser XC saddle.
Okay.
I'm looking to upgrade to a tethered Ultralock. They're just sweet saddles. Little expensive, but you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for, and I mean, there's a lot of comfort that goes into it, right? Like, there's a lot of intro level saddles that are great. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's like, if I would have spent the extra $30, I could have had this, and this. So if you're starting out, if someone's like fresh first into saddles, I understand wanting to, save a little bit of money, try it out. If you don't like it, didn't break the bank. But once you know you like it, like me, you're in a situation now where it's time to upgrade a little bit.
Yep.
On to Trickster. Trickster is, I'm not going to give away the full story. I'm going to leave it for you. But I was doing some research. Literally, I was scouring YouTube, trying to find like as many people as I could from Jersey, PA, New Hampshire, like the whole Northeast, like I told you.
Yeah.
And I came across yours, and it was a New Jersey hunt, and I was like, awesome, man. Let's do it. I want to watch this. So I start watching this video, and in the very beginning, you're talking about hunter pressure and quads and people walking, and that is just the true New Jersey experience.
Fortunately,
the state, in my opinion, the way it plays out for us as hunters is the state makes things illegal, the good people follow the laws, and the assholes break them. And it's like, at the end of the day, I feel like, and this is hunting specific, of course, but like at the end of the day, I feel like so many laws are made in favor of the non-hunting public, and like the hunting public kind of gets screwed out of enjoying the outdoors with the same quality that non-hunters get to. So with that being said, I want to give you the floor, and I want you to tell us the story about Trickster. I have some questions written down here. I'm sure I'm going to have some more by the time you're done telling the story. But the floor is yours, man. Talk to us.
All right, cool. So Trickster it was a really fun hunt that I had. So down here in South Jersey, I had a good friend of mine, Brian. He had a little 20-acre parcel that was a little far for him for a commute. So he asked me if I wanted to hunt it because he knew I hunted in that area. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, more the merrier. So he let me hunt this new property. And this was somewhere I'd never been before, never really scouted or anything. So I went in there one day, scouted it out, saw a lot of sign, saddle hunted it a couple times. Didn't see anything. I really didn't see many deer, except for a lot of four-wheelers. This little piece of property, it's like almost like a triangle. And you have a very busy road on the left side of the piece. And then you have power lines on the right side of the piece. But behind the power lines is all marsh, and then it turns into a state park. So
sounds like a heck of a spot.
yes, yeah, like the quality deer there is very good, but they just don't normally go into that piece. Like they're not heavy in there. Thankfully, when I killed Trickster, I was doing the rut, so they were up on the move and running around. That's when I really started getting a lot of activity. So anyway, I started saddle hunting in there a lot. Saw a few does, nothing crazy. Picked out a spot that I thought there was a lot of trails intersecting, coming from the power lines, coming through, kind of in between a bedding area and the power lines. So I hung a set in there and put up a trail camera on a couple big main, like there was a huge community scrape behind my stand out in some open pines. And I started getting pictures of some nice bucks coming in there it was like late October. And one of them was Trickster, which he was a nice 8-pointer. He's not the biggest deer on the planet, trust me, by no means, but I had him and another really nice 8-pointer on camera that was coming in consistently. Like they were hitting a scrape almost every night, every morning. But it was like hit or miss, like what times they would be there, which is to be expected with a Jersey deer. They were in there a lot during night. They weren't in there a lot during the day. So it was definitely challenging on that part. But yeah, so I started getting cameras of these guys or camera pictures of these deer. And I would get out there and start hunting. And it would just be one thing after another between the neighbor who had permission to drive his four-wheeler through the property to get to the power lines, go ride. I'd be in the middle of a hunt. He'd be ripping through, 60, 70 yards from my tree stand, right in between where the deer were coming from, going down the power lines. Then they would have, their dirt bike meets on the weekends, Saturdays, Sundays, and they're ripping up and down the power lines. Not saying that the deer, well, you're saying with Jersey, with how much pressure it is, not saying that the deer weren't used to it, but as a hunter, it's extremely frustrating when you're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort and putting in the money and everything like that. And you have these people that are not following the rules and driving through places where they're not even allowed to be. You know what I mean?
So was it, sorry to cut you off, because I was actually going to ask you, you answered it kind of already, but the quad pressure, you said that the neighbor had permission. Was it he had permission and then tons of other people who didn't have permission were doing the same thing?
So he had permission to drive through the property that I had permission to hunt on. To get to the power lines, which was technically state property. So the only issue that I had with that was, he was driving through the woods that I was hunting to get to his property, but nobody else was really cutting through there. But the main power lines is where everybody is riding through. It's a giant loop. People drive all over the place, miles and miles. It's trails that go all over the place. They cross major roads and keep going. The neighbor driving through wasn't a huge issue. He drove through every once in a while. It was still annoying.
Sure.
But when you have them ripping by you down the power lines like 10 deep, it starts to get old real quick. Yeah.
Of course. I got you.
So that was like the main issue. And then to put the icing on the cake, power line company was, I guess, hired a bunch of tree cutters, and they were doing some kind of tree cutting project out in the power lines, and they were going down there every morning, 7:30. Their trucks would drive by. Now, like I said, this piece of property is only like 20 acres, so it's pretty tight. It's not, I could have moved a little bit deeper in, but I didn't want to because I liked where I was. It was a good intersection point, and I had those community scrapes behind me. So I stayed put. I kept dealing with it. The trucks would come through every morning at 7:30. They'd drive down, making all their noise, and they go down and they would start cutting, and you'd hear them grinding, chopping up all the wood and everything, and they would get closer and closer and closer to me, and I'd move out of there and leave. Come back a couple days later and they'd be in there again. It was just one thing after another. It was just extremely frustrating. And, in the meantime, I was hunting other of my pieces as well. But I really had my eyes set on Trickster and this other 8-pointer that was coming in. And I kind of wanted, out of fun, I've never really specifically targeted one buck. You know what I mean? Like I went in most of my properties where I had like 2 or 3 shooters. If any of them came out, I was going to take a shot. Something about Trickster and the other 8-pointer was a little bit bigger than Trickster, but he was not as consistent. So I kind of set my sights on Trickster because he was more consistent. And I really wanted to build up that story on chasing just one deer in particular. Like, only coming on with that deer type of thing. Never done that before on the channel or in my life, to be honest with you. Having him come in consistent, I was like, all right, he's on the hit list. Like, that's the deer I'm going to hunt. Him and the other
He was the hit list.
yeah, the hit list. Yeah, him and the other 8-pointer. I mean, either of those two came in, but I was really targeting Trickster just because of how consistent he was. So I went up getting in there. This was like the second week in November. I hunted 5 days in a row, and I took off a whole week from work. It was the rut, I had off, so I went in there hunting every morning, almost every night. I didn't want to pressure it too much, so I would hunt it in the mornings. It was definitely more of a morning spot. Like, the deer were coming in there in the mornings and leaving the property around like 7:30, 8 o'clock. They weren't really coming back in there. So the mornings were key, which I figured out, via trail cameras and just observation, because sitting in the stand, I could see they funneled in this one corner and they would always cross in and out of the power lines right there. So I kept persistent. It would be one of those things where I would get down, no matter what time I got down, Trickster would show up on the camera an hour later after I got out. And I'm like, what the heck, man? So, I kept sitting. And Jersey, I mean, you and I both know, like, it's not really one of those states you sit all day on. Like, you can. I have before, but in those small little pieces of woods, like, I knew the deer weren't coming in there, so I wasn't sitting all day. So after a couple more little tricks that Trickster pulled, coming in and after me, I said, you know what, I'm going to sit all day. So I think it was the fourth sit. I sat all day. He never came in. So I was like, all right, maybe he just wasn't in the area. He's chasing a doe. I'm starting to think maybe he got killed. Maybe, because he didn't even show up on the trail camera at night, hitting the scrape behind me. So went in the next morning, and I had a nice, I'm pretty sure it was him.
If you're anything like me, you love to customize your bow while always making sure everything is just spot on. That's why I trust Anthony and Chris over at Big D Custom Pro Shop. They're located on Route 15 in Lake Hopatcong, New Jersey, and they have everything you need to tune your bow. And I promise you're going to leave there with a smile on your face. So, if you live in northern New Jersey, give my boy Big D a shout for all your archery needs. When I head out to the woods, I have to know that I have the best performing equipment that I can afford. So that way I'm the only variable that I have to worry about. That's why I trust Firenock products for all my arrow and bow accessory needs. From arrow components to bow accessories like stabilizers and arrow rests, they have what you need. Dorge won't put anything on the market if it doesn't perform 50% better than what's already out there. So head on over to firenock.com today to see what they're all about.
If it wasn't him, it was the other big 8-pointer. I heard a bunch of commotion behind me. He comes running in by himself, grunting. I get him like 25 yards, but it's like at the ass crack of sunrise. So I didn't feel comfortable shooting. I had a little window where I could have probably squeezed one through, but like I said, it was still early and I really didn't feel comfortable. So I just let him keep going.
Those are the best shots, man. Like the ones like, I don't know if you shoot a lot of 3D at all, but I shoot like in the summertime. I spend a lot of time shooting 3D. I have a friend of mine who shoots for like the youth. I don't know if it's youth or whatever it is, but he shoots for one of the U.S. shooting teams, like the U.S. archery teams, the Hornets.
Okay.
And one of the big things we say all the time, you go to draw back and you don't feel like it's good and you let it down, good shot, man. Like the best shots you take sometimes are the ones you don't take at all for whatever reason, so commend you on that.
Thank you. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Because the last thing you want to do is wound a deer, and I absolutely despise it. It messes me up. If I put a bad shot on, even if it's a doe, like, it's still a life, it's still a deer. You got to respect the game you chase.
Yeah, and not to cut your story off, but and I've told my listeners this a bunch of times, so I'll make it quick. But I hunted for roughly 20 years, never hit a deer that I didn't bring home. I missed a lot of deer, but every single deer I shot and hit in 20 years came home with me. That's the last 2 deer I shot. So I shot a deer with the rifle in rifle season this past year. Nice. But the 2 deer before that, I hit and never brought home. One of them was a dog track. We tracked it for hours, like hundreds of yards. Yeah. And it was just, the video said it was a good shot. There was no blood. We just couldn't. And it was like, I did not hunt for a month and a half straight. I couldn't bring myself to hit a tree. So when you say that, I feel you 100%.
Yeah, it's a bad feeling for sure. And every time, thankfully, it hasn't happened to me a whole lot. I've been hunting for about 20 years now. In my time, I've definitely had a few that I did not bring home with me, but I did my due diligence as a hunter, got a dog, like you said, and tracked them, did everything, going out there, grid searching for, a couple days in a row, just trying to find them and never getting lucky. So unfortunately, you spend enough time in the woods, it's going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. Now, we're about to get into, this is, I didn't do this on purpose, but this is like the perfect, in my opinion, the turning point of your video. Because in your video, it's dark. You're like, I didn't get a good shot. I had one window, like you said all this in your video. And It's like, I had one window and I just didn't feel comfortable taking the shot. Yep. And when I played it back later on, I was pretty confident it was Trickster.
Yes.
So now you're in the woods. You play back. You had a shot. You chose not to take it. What's going through your head when you play it back and you now see that it's him?
So it's the oh shit factor. Man, maybe I should have took that shot. Oh, he was standing there. Oh, I did have an opening there. I definitely could have made it. Now what? Like, is he going to come back in here? Because he wound up going through some laurels next to me and jumping up a doe that was bedded that I even know was next to me. She was 40 yards bedded in a laurel. I got in there that morning and didn't spook her out or nothing. Pushed her out, and they chased her out into the neighbor's property through like an open field. And when he got through there, and then I played the film back, I was like, there's probably not any other does bedded in there because he probably would have went in there chasing her. They pushed the one out, and he's gone. So I said, all right, maybe it ain't going to happen today. You know what I mean? So right. I knew I only had like a couple more days before I had to go back to work. So, I tried to stay positive and keep my mind clear.
Now, the very next frame. So you have this happen in the morning. You have your all day sit, little 4-pointer comes out or whatever.
Yep.
But then the next frame of the next day, Trickster is right in front of you already eating. And and he snuck in. I know he snuck in, and you didn't have a chance to get your camera on to get him coming in.
Yeah.
How did that all transpire? Like, how did he get in front of you?
So my stand faces the power lines.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was sitting. So I had laurels to my right, real thick laurels, like bedding area, open pines with all those community scrapes right behind me, which are within 30 yards, so I could shoot them. It's not an issue. So it was around 7:20, I think it was, and I knew what was getting ready to happen. 7:30 on the dot, them trucks come rolling through. I already knew if there's any deer around, they ain't going to be coming in right now. I said, my best bet's probably be that 8 o'clock range after they're cutting and doing their things. It started getting pretty cold. I ain't gonna lie. It was a nice cold front, so I had my Nomad gear on. I put my hood up. I zippered all up to try to get into like a little cocoon, to try to stay warm. I was getting that morning chill. And as I put my hood up, I'm looking down, and I look back up, and I thought I saw a glimmer or something like cross the power lines. Looking, I'm like, I don't know what that was. And I looked. I forget what I did. I looked to my right or something. I look back, and he's 25 yards coming right to the bait in front of me. I'm like, crap, like, now what? Because he's literally like, at this point, he's 15 yards, and I have my hood up, which I don't normally shoot with my hood up because it especially with the zipper and everything, it puts it up against your neck. So this deer's behind me, or right in front of me now. His head's down, so I try to lean up and hit the GoPro, which I didn't know only had about 2% battery left. So
the cold, man, the GoPros can't handle the cold.
Nope. So grab the handy cam. I real quick just flip it open. One hand, record. I don't know how I got away with all this. Like, I really don't. Lift up my right hand. I pull my hood down. And now I got my bow. Thankfully, I had a Millennium stand and had a clip-on like bow mounted to the seat. So my bow is right here next to me.
Oh, that's nice.
So which was sweet. I didn't have to reach up and grab it. It was right here. So I literally grabbed it. I put it on my knee. Clip the release, and I'm sitting there waiting for my opportunity. I'm like, all right, I might have to take a shooting shot, or not a shooting shot, a sitting shot, which is I highly recommend for any bow hunters. Make sure you practice in every position you can, sitting, shooting left, right, do it all, because you never know when a deer's gonna slip in on you and trick you up. So he comes in, he's sitting there eating, and I start hearing the trucks coming, and they're coming down the power lines, creaking, and they're driving by this deer at 40 yards, 50 yards, and he's facing me this entire time. So I'm starting to think, man, should I take a frontal shot? I'm not a big fan of them, especially at a steep elevation. Like, you got to really send it in there good. I was not super confident. Leading back to my decision making earlier about not taking the shot, I waited. If he does spook, he's most likely going to go dart to the left or right, and I'll get a broadside shot, hopefully. So he's facing me. The trucks are driving. He turns and looks to his right, watches the trucks go by, and he just keeps eating. The trucks go by. He finally, after like, it felt like forever, but I want to say maybe it was like 5, 6 minutes. He finally turns broadside and he actually stretched out his whole left leg forward and just opened up his vitals perfectly. And I was able to stand up and get a shot and drilled him. I mean, an absolute perfect heart shot right behind the shoulder in that little soft spot. He ran 30 yards, 35 yards into a tree, did a front flip, and he was done within seconds. Yeah, it was incredible. So it was just awesome. It happened so quick, and to be able to put in all the time, hunting and learning a new piece of property and, figuring out and overcoming all the New Jersey pressure. Like, that's not just asphalt. I mean, that pressure is everywhere, no matter where you go. But be able to overcome that, overcome, frustrating moments and stuff like that, and to be able to harvest a deer that I specifically was going after was a really good feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like, and I got a whole bunch of questions about this whole how everything played out, but do you ever feel like on those quicker scenarios where you look up, the deer's just there and it happens so quick? Do you ever feel like you're robbed? Do you ever feel like when that happens, like you're robbed of the experience of seeing him come in and trying to figure out what he's going to do and getting the camera footage and like,
Yeah, I would say sometimes, yeah. In that specific scenario, did I wish I seen him coming a little bit quicker? Yes, because I would have been a little bit more prepared and hopefully be able to get a shot a little bit sooner. But it all worked out. It would have been nice to get the footage of him coming in. Um, and it would have been even nicer if the GoPro didn't die. Yeah, I definitely agree, though. It's always nice to get that adrenaline coming in, especially like if it's a big deer though, and it comes in and it catches you off guard. It kind of almost helps you because it doesn't build up that adrenaline. You're like you're shaking, getting the buck fever and everything before you take the shot. What happened with him? Like he came in so quick, but then I also had him at 12, 15 yards for like 6, 7 minutes, and so I had all that time to get the shakes out. And, I'm thinking so many other thoughts on my head, like, oh my gosh, these trucks are driving by. They're going to bust him out of here. Like, he's going to take off. I'm not going to get a shot. This is going to be my second or third missed opportunity at him, So it was nice. It was a bittersweet moment for sure.
Yeah. And what I've noticed, to be honest with you, Jersey has a lot of wildlife management areas, public land, county land, town land that you could go and hunt. And we have some tracts that are massive. I mean, 10,000 acre tracts, right? Me personally, sometimes if the layout of the area is correct, I will choose to hunt behind houses over hunting deep in the woods. There's just something about the deer in those areas being comfortable with the smell of people and the sounds of human that it gives you a leg up, in my opinion.
I agree.
Like the deer, I don't know if you can see it in the frame, but the deer that I have up here, he is my largest to date. Shot him in Jersey, and I was literally sitting 70 yards off somebody's back door, 10 feet in from the safety zone signs.
Wow.
And it was just, there were, heavy winds. The winds were blowing from everywhere. And it was just, he came in without a care in the world,
Same thing happens.
Yeah. And same thing happened to me last year. I was sitting in a spot again in Jersey, same patch of woods that he was shot in, just off a different area. And the whole day they were doing cutting. They were cutting trees down someone's yard, grinding them up. And I didn't see any bucks that day, but I saw a handful of doe walk through. So if the piece sets up properly, pressure can be a good thing.
It can,
in my opinion. And if anyone here is planning on hunting Jersey, that might be something to consider.
Yeah, I agree, because the deer are used to it, and even that small piece, it's a 20-acre piece that backs up to, I forget how many acres it is. It's probably close to 300-acre state park.
Yeah,
with a lot of water, a lot of cedar like swamps in there and stuff. I mean, perfect area for a big deer to grow and hide and never be seen. But there were some houses near where I was hunting, but like I said, it was a very small piece, and there wasn't nothing that was super motivating to bring them in there. I mean, there's bedding, so the does were in there, which was nice early season, which is what I think brought them bucks across, out of that state piece to go in there, because they're moving so much to look for does and stuff.
Sure.
But a lot of my other pieces that I hunt are all backyards. It's a lot of, rural hunting. I mean, I can watch TV at my one property, and shoot a deer out of the stand. It's awesome. It's definitely, like you said, pressure can work in your favor for sure, or it can work against you. And in Trickster's story, it did a little bit of both. I think it was, as a public land hunter or even a private piece, private property hunter, like as a hunter, you got to let those things kind of roll off your back and not let them get to you that much, because that was something that I was struggling with during that hunt. Like I thought about giving up and just not hunting that property anymore because it was just so frustrating. I mean, you see the video, there's videos of quads going all by me, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, as a hunter, you're trying to get away. Like that's my therapy, I have a stressful job, so going out in the woods, it's a good time. So
No, I hear you completely. And the thing is, I'm a firm believer that deer associate certain sounds with certain things. So I agree with you 100%. If I go in the woods and I hear a quad, I'm pissed off.
Yep.
Like literally, the question I had written down here was, do the quads bother you, the deer, or both? And the truth is,
yeah,
probably more us than anything. Because
yeah.
those deer, let's be honest, people are illegally riding quads on state land all day, every single day of the year. There, as long as you don't stop. We have the same thing on our family property. We have 130 acres in upstate New York.
Awesome.
And we have UTVs and we ride around all the time.
Yep.
If you stop to look at a deer, they're gone.
They're gone. They know.
But as long as you keep the engine going, even if you're barely moving at like 1 mile an hour, as long as you don't stop, they just kind of watch you go by. And then they go off and they do their own thing. More so, though, with like cutting companies. Because, so one of the questions I have here is, do you think that those tree people hurt you or helped you? Because like where we live, our neighbor, one of the guys who lives close to us, he is a logger by trade. And he kind of does the work for a lot of people in our general area.
Yeah.
Last year, 2003, during our hunting season in about August, he goes in and starts doing a whole timber harvest for this guy, leaving treetops everywhere. And it got to the point where he would hop in the skidder, start pulling logs and trees and whatnot. Yeah. And he'd look behind him and there's an 8-pointer like following the skidder, picking off the treetops. So the deer in our area know if we hear chainsaws and we hear machines in the woods, there's food there. Let me go eat some.
Yeah.
So did you get to witness that? Did you get to experience either Trickster or any of the other deer in your area making use of whatever they were leaving behind?
So I can't say that I did for sure, because they weren't cutting on my property. They were cutting in the state property next to me. But I will say, to answer your original question on that of, did I think it helped me or hurt me? It did both. It helped me when they were cutting further south of me, because it was keeping the deer out of that area and they're pushing them essentially towards me. So I was seeing more deer activity when they were further south of me. When they were right next to me at 50 yards, it hurt me, because mentally I was like, there's no way a deer's coming through here. They're grinding the shit out of this thing, like these trees. Yeah. But I definitely think that, because they were only cutting during the week, the weekends they were off. They're leaving them trees down. Them deer were in there, they're using them as those blowdowns, laydowns and stuff is covered. They're sleeping, feeding, like you said, I'm sure. Did I see it? No, but do I believe it that they were doing that? Yeah, for sure.
So I listened to something recently, and by recently, I want to say in like the last 2 years, maybe, but it really stuck with me. And it was like whoever was doing this study, they collared a bunch of deer during deer season. And they were kind of trying to figure out what day of the week is the best day to go hunting. What they found is Saturdays, deer moving around pretty decent. Sunday, they start to slow down. But this, like specifically in New York, where you're able to hunt Saturday and Sunday, and Jersey too, in like private property and wildlife management areas, what they found was Saturday was decent movement. Sunday was like, and Monday it just shut off.
Yeah.
And then the deer weren't really starting to move again until Wednesday.
Yep.
And then they really got comfortable again back into their, what you would call, quote, normal patterns on Friday. So 100%, I truly believe that deer feel the pressure, know when it's safe, know when it's not safe. Now, do I think they remember what happened a year ago? Maybe not. Do they remember what like, I don't think they live in days, like 7 days to a week type of deal,
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But I think they go a certain amount of time without pressure before they're like, okay, is the coast clear? Like think of like a criminal you're chasing, like they're hiding from you for a little bit, and like they don't hear footsteps for a while. And they're like, can I go?
Eventually, they peek out.
Exactly. I should have started with this. Where did Trickster get his name from?
So after I started getting all these trail camera pictures of him preseason, or I shouldn't say preseason, but before I really got into hunting that property and I was just inventorying mainly, obviously it was a nice deer that piqued my interest, but his name really came after the fact, which was when I specifically chose that I was going to go after him or that other big eight that was on the property. And when I would sit and he would get down and show up, or I wouldn't sit because I was like, oh, it's blowing 30, 40 mile an hour, I'm not going to go sit. He'd show up. Anytime that, I was off and I could have sat, but I didn't sit, he showed up. Or if no matter how long I sat all day, got down, he was there that night after I left. So that's kind of where his name came from, because I felt like the deer was playing tricks on me. He was watching me and was like, all right, I got you, sucker. You're out of here. I'm moving in.
I got you.
So that's kind of where the name came from.
I got you. We had something similar to that on our property. We had this one deer. It was just a beautiful deer. At the time, I called him Towers because like he came out and just went like straight up. It was like just an awesome looking rack. Maybe a 125. Like he wasn't like massive, super big. It was a beautiful deer. And then one day, my brother goes out hunting. He comes back, and you can see on his face something's not right. And he goes, well, I got a new name for him. I go, what is it? He goes, Buzzcut. And he just sprinkles a bunch of hair on the ground. And long story short, he had this deer come out. He just didn't make the shot he wanted to. And he literally skinned his back.
Wow.
Perfect left and right, perfect placement. It was just a foot too high.
Just too high.
Shaved his hair off. No blood on the arrow. We saw him a couple weeks later on camera. He looked fine.
That's good.
But he got a new name, and that was the last season we saw him. We never saw him again. So we don't know if somebody else got him, if he moved out of the area, or what the deal is. I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. It was a beautiful shot, though, man. I have it written down here. Your shot on Trickster, it was like perfect. That like you said, that soft spot right behind the leg. Yeah. Perfect pass through.
Yep.
So
that was probably one of the best shots I've taken. Like dead center heart, that I've taken in a while. I mean, I always try to get aim for there, but how it happens, they move. This one, he didn't move an inch. Like it stayed and went right through, perfect pass through, and he ran 35 yards, 40 yards, and died. And it was great because you don't want to suffer. You want to put a quick shot on him. And I know for a fact, I mean, he was dead within 4 or 5 seconds.
And let's be honest, unless he runs directly towards my car, I'm also thinking, shit, there's another 100-yard drag.
Definitely ran right to the power lines and get my truck back there. And
there you go. You could ride your car up into the power line if you need to.
There was an access point on the property that I could get to it. So, which was
all right. Nice. So one of the big things for me, and when I was watching the Trickster video and it got to the end, and what really made me feel like, man, I can relate to that. It was like you were saying throughout the whole video, throughout this entire experience, you were visibly frustrated. Yeah. People were riding around. They were ruining your peace and your solitude. And when it all finished, it wasn't until you made the shot and you're talking about it after the fact that you can literally see relief in your face. Yeah. It was like you just exhaled all of this frustration. You could see your shoulders just settle. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about that and what it felt like to finally be able to wrap up this story.
Yeah. I mean, it felt amazing. Like, you not having that uncertainty of the shot, and seeing him expire close by, knowing that it was a great shot. I mean, that just puts icing on the cake right there, So knowing that there was no question if this deer was still alive, if it was a bad shot or anything, it like elevated the normal reaction even higher. And just having all that built up stress and pressure, on my shoulders of all that human traffic and human activity and stuff. And the fact that I didn't give up and I kept going on, and also the fact that it was a completely new piece of property to me that I've never stepped foot on before. I only hunted it really realistically for like 3.5 weeks or so before I killed him. Was just like a really good, like feeling like, all right, I was able to figure this out. I was able to figure out what deer were in the area, figured out where they're accessing the property from. I was able to figure out all these new things and kind of get patterns to them. And, I was able to use that into my hunting this year over there. Just seeing that deer, be able to get that shot, knowing that it was a clean shot and he didn't run far. It was just a huge sense of relief, like you said. Like it did feel like weight got off my shoulders just because I was able to say, wow, you did it. Like you were able to overcome all that pressure. You're able to figure out a new piece of property and get it done. So it was really awesome. And like I said, just to see, know that he was dead for sure, like right then and there, it was a quick ethical shot, like made it 10 times better.
Yeah. I kind of had something similar this past year. Like I told you, for the last 2 years, it's been hit, no recovery, hit, no recovery. Yep. In New York, we're trying to grow the deer. So it's like there's been a lot of deer that I've passed up that maybe I'd probably shoot on public land or, on a trip hunt kind of deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for the last couple of years, I've been feeling the pressure. It's like, man, I got this channel. We haven't really shot anything. Like, and it was just, granted, I only shot a doe this year, but it was like, I could still do it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And then later in the year, I was doing some snow tracking. It was the first time I've ever really like made the decision to get out and snow track.
that's
And
cool.
I can't, and same exact tree that I hit the doe, like she was under the tree where I shot out of and hit the doe this past year. And man, I brought my rifle up and I was like, ooh, I want to take it so bad.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. Like in that moment, like I had all these thoughts going through my head. I was like, you know what? I already shot a doe. We don't have the biggest doe population. Surprisingly, we have more bucks on our property than doe,
Really?
which doesn't really happen often.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, mind you, they're not all mature. We got some spikes, some 4-pointers, some 2-year-olds, maybe some 3-year-olds, but there's a lot of bucks
A lot
in
of
general.
bucks,
So when that happened, and I'd already shot the doe with the rifle like 2 weeks earlier, and I was like, it would be so cool to be able to show this video, but I chose what was best for the property over what was best for what we have going on here. So I could
yeah.
kind of walk away with my head held high with that one,
Yeah,
but
yeah, you got to. You can't, like you said earlier in this podcast, sometimes like it's not worth, taking a shot if, for just to get on film or for whatever. Like you got to look at the longevity of it too, like yeah, I have a property near my house that it's like 38 acres, and I try to manage it the best I can on doe to buck ratio. You know what I mean? Like this year, I had a higher buck ratio than does. I killed one doe out of there early season, and that was it. And I had plenty of other opportunities, but I didn't shoot anymore because I knew it
okay.
was for the better. Later on next year, we'll get more deer in there.
Sure. And there was something also recently I heard that was really cool. And it was like deer that had like does typically I forget what the order went, but it was something like younger healthy doe are more likely to have buck fawns versus doe fawns, and older deer are more likely to have doe fawns versus buck fawns.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, like, they tell you, try to keep the younger does around and shoot the more mature does to get them out of there because they're more educated and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
But if you look at it that way, you know what I mean? If you're shooting them older does, your ratio is going to get messed up. If
Yeah.
if the science behind it's true,
Sure. My thing is, if a doe blows, she goes. If I can, like, I'm not a huge fan of educating deer. Like, if they see me walking through, like, that's one thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
our property, we have a lot of set stands, and I've experienced hundreds of times in Jersey where a deer will see you in that tree, and every single time they come past that tree, are
yeah.
you there?
That's
And like
that's Jersey hunting right there. I mean,
100%.
there's not many states that the deer come walking in the woods looking up the whole time.
Now, part of me also believes that there's some sense of evolution in that too. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
know back in the day, guys were, going out and setting up permanent stands, like wooden stands and trees and stuff. But
Yep, leave them there.
I'd have to talk to someone. I feel like there's way more guys hunting high now than there were 75 years ago,
Yeah,
let's say. You know what I mean? So my thing is the deer that are still alive and the deer that continue to make it through season after season, in my opinion, they've learned to avoid hunters that are up in the air.
yeah,
So it doesn't surprise me that more deer are walking around looking up and trying to be safe. Very similar to little prey animals that are looking up for hawks and shit.
yeah.
Like the only reason they've survived is because they know to avoid from the air.
Yep, 100%.
So now you said you hunted that for like 5 days straight.
Yeah.
Were you in the same stand, same tree every day?
One time I moved to a different stand. Just the wind was bad. I had a good wind that week, and that's really what benefited, helped me out with harvesting him. I had one day where the wind was bad, so I hunted the same property. I just hunted a little bit more on the northern side of the property, so it's kind of like where the pinch of the property, like how I said it was like a triangle. It was up in there. There's like a real thick, like laurel thicket in there, and an old bog. So I had pictures of him up in there too. He wasn't as consistent, but I had the day off, so I was still going to sit it. And I sat it, and I think I seen like 2 does, and that was it. But
all right,
he didn't come in that day.
I gotcha. Now, you had a big you called a community scrape behind you.
Yes.
What is your perception of a community scrape? What is the difference to Steve between just a scrape and all the deer are using it?
Yeah. So for me, that right where I was hunting, I was up in like thick like blueberry bushes and laurels and like pines and stuff. But behind me, it was a transition line. So we all know deer love transition lines. They love using them. So when I was first scouting that property, I started walking those transition lines. And it was a transition line from that thick, nasty stuff to a wide open, sandy area with a lot of like, it wasn't all sand. It was like quad trails and stuff, but it was a lot of like open pines. So pines and oaks. So I walked that transition line and I started finding those small little normal scrapes that you would see, a buck making when he's pissed off or whatever. And he's just making those little scrape lines. This scrape, what made it different to me was it was an oak tree with a big wide branch that overhung real low, and it was like one giant, like compared to all the other scrapes, this thing was every bit of like 3 by 3, like 3 foot by 3 foot, just hole in the ground that was just constantly being hit with two other smaller ones next to it. So putting a camera on that and seeing how many does were just checking it, regardless of just bucks, and I had coyotes going through there, foxes, like all kinds of stuff. But to me, that's what kind of seeing the size of the scrape and how much the deer, besides, the does were using it as well, made me believe it was a community scrape.
Okay, I got you.
And knowing that the deer were in there is another reason why made me put my stand there, because they were obviously cutting through there from the corner of the property and coming through.
Yep.
That kind of what motivated me there.
Now, you had mentioned that that community scrape was behind you.
Yes.
Is there any particular reason why you chose to not set up with that as your shot and you chose to face the other way instead?
So the main reason why the tree that I was in, it was kind of like selection was kind of junk in there. You know how Jersey is,
Yeah.
Straight trees. There was a big fork in the tree, and if I put it on the backside facing there, I would not be able to see anything coming from the power lines because I knew they were crossing there based off of trails and stuff. And there was a main trail that came to my left of where I put the stand that led to the scrape. So my thought process on it was, one, it was a little awkward to put the stand facing towards the scrape, but I would be able to kill them coming to and from. Okay. I was able to like position it so I could shoot no problem on that scrape if he came behind me. Where I was facing with the scrape behind me, I could see all the deer would come in from my right or out in front of me. So I would see all the deer coming before they would get to the scrape. So if they were coming there and I didn't get a shot, it gave me time to get in position anyway. And I had that tree between us, so I had cover. I definitely would have liked to be kind of more on top of that scrape, just tree selection mainly. But
so it's more of a tactical advantage versus whatever.
Yeah. Okay. And like I said, I was still able to have the opportunity to shoot on there. I did have bucks go in there, and I could have shot them, but they were just smaller.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of the saddle. Is being able to get now. If you're really Tarzan and you don't mind hanging off a tree and doing some crazy shit, like you really can get 300 on the tree.
You can, and in that particular hunt with Trickster, I was in a regular platform stand, but
Gotcha.
I hunted early season in there out of the saddle. But like you said, the saddle advantage, that 360. Like you can truly shoot 360 if you practice. Like you have to be able to practice. It's a science, like the maneuver to get behind the tree and stuff like that. I can finally say I'm confident enough that I feel like really confident, like confident enough that I did a video on it. But before that, it's interesting. It's a totally different lifestyle, like of hunting,
Yeah. My thing is, and again, my listeners have heard this story before, but when I was a kid hunting Jersey, I went up. I don't know how old you are, and I don't know if you know.
I'm 30.
Okay, I'm 33.
Okay.
So you probably have you heard of the old Amica tree stands, the old Amica climbers?
I think so. Yeah.
They were aluminum, and they had pins that you could pull, and you could literally adjust the angle in the tree. Absolutely phenomenal. So the first time I ever went out hunting, I barely had any practice with it. I knew how to use it just well enough to be able to use it.
Yep.
And you're supposed to tie the bottom platform to the top platform as like a backup safety precaution. I never did that. And I wasn't using a harness at the time. Okay. So I'll go to climb, like, I don't know, 15, 20 feet in the tree. I go to adjust my platform and the fucking bottom falls out on me. And I got no harness on, and I'm hanging in the tree. And long story short, I was okay. But ever since that day, I'm like, I don't want to say terrified of heights. I've said that before, but it's more of a discomfort with heights. Like I get the queasy stomach, and it's like, my dad as a kid, he if we were on a train trestle, he'd be sitting there shaking because he was terrified. Like that, So my thing was, I bought a saddle platform, and I got rid of it because it was too small, and I didn't feel comfortable to turn around. Yep. Which is why I like the retrograde. It's big enough for me to use as a platform. It's small enough for me to use as a saddle platform. Yeah. And I could really do all of it.
That's awesome.
Back to the scrapes. I
Yeah.
had a really cool thing going on this past year. So we have the Cuddy Link system. I don't
Okay.
know if you're familiar with Cuddy Link, like the Cuddy back cameras, but you
Yeah.
can literally have like up to 28 cameras on one cell plane. It's absolutely incredible.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. We ran out of cameras and I still had places I wanted to put cameras. So I went out and got just like some cheap cameras that I could put up. If they break, whatever. And in one night, I saw a raccoon, I saw a coyote come in, take a piss in one spot. A couple, I don't know, an hour later, a bobcat comes by, pisses on the same spot. Coyote comes back, pees on it again. Raccoon comes over, pees. It was literally the same blade of grass, dude. It was like the coolest thing in the world.
That's insane.
Yeah. Did you find when you had that scrape going on and all these other animals are going back and forth, did you find other animals using the scrape, or did you find them just kind of going through?
Using, yeah. Mainly just fox. I had a fox that would hit it every once in a while.
Okay.
I did have a pack of coyotes go through it one day, but I had the camera on video mode. They just nose to the ground, just trotting through, smelling, just tracking whatever they were tracking. But
Where's my next meal?
100%. But I did have a lot of raccoons going through there, but I can't say the raccoons were using it. The foxes, 100%, like they were going in it and pissing in it and then keep it moving. It was weird, but I've never seen other animals like what you were just saying. That's pretty interesting. I've never seen them use that.
Yeah, it was just like, granted, it wasn't a scrape. It was just literally on. Honestly, I put that camera up because it was one of our entrances into the property, so it was more like a surveillance thing.
Yeah.
And B, I saw a whole bunch of sign along that road, but I could never get my eyes on deer. So I was like, I want to know what's using this thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a scrape. It was literally just like if you look at a 2-track and you have the tires going through and then the grass kind of grows in the middle.
Yep.
It was just in a random spot right on that like center road, and they were just using it. I thought that was pretty cool.
Them predators do love using them little roads, man. They work them all the time.
They do. And they, like you said, nose to the ground, following the deer scent or whatever, trying to maybe see. Like, the coolest thing I learned this year is that when I called, or 2 years ago, when I called that dog in to track my deer, and they were talking to me. So I have a hunting dog that I've trained. I used to run him in hunting trials when I was in college and stuff like that. And one of the things I learned about is animals, dogs specifically, they're able to sense things in the animal scent. So we were always trying to figure out in our training, like, how does a dog know the difference between a live bird and a dead bird? And some people were saying they have to smell the blood, or they smell the tracks. And the trainer that we were working with goes, no, I think they smell breath. So they're able to tell the difference between a live bird and a dead bird because they can smell the breath of the bird.
Yeah.
So fast forward to this track that I had done, it was the coolest thing when I found out that deer secrete emotions through their interdigital gland.
Yes.
So when they're freaked out, it comes out from between their hooves, or if they're in pain or in danger or whatever, or if they're calm, like the ever calm or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So to hear that and how the dog was tracking not just my deer, but
all the deer,
the scent that my deer specifically puts out when that deer is scared, that to me was a complete game changer, completely. Because in my eyes, it's like, shit, I don't have to be here to spook a deer to spook a deer.
Yeah.
So we had our situation this year where we had our target buck on camera, the most patterned deer I've ever had in my entire life. Beautiful 10-pointer, nice. just an amazing looking deer. Yeah. My dad missed him the first Saturday of the season. Ugh. Not only did we never see him again, the number of deer we started to reduce little by little.
Really?
My thing was, and I said, I have no way to test this, but I wonder if because he was the mature deer in the area and he ran off scared, I wonder if other deer were like, you know what? He's the head honcho, and if he's scared of something, something ain't right.
Yeah, that's very plausible. I mean, it could be, yeah.
I don't know. I had no way to test it, man. I have no way to test it.
It's pretty interesting. And like you said, like sometimes it's not even you spooking the deer, it's a deer spooking the deer, because if you have a doe blowing at you, downwind or whatever, I'm sure she's secreting some kind of scent from their glands or whatever, that another deer is going to cross that path later and smell that and be like, oh shit, something's up here, and they're going to bounce. Could explain why, deer activity kind of goes downhill after something like that happens when you bust a bunch of deer out of there.
Yeah, granted, we also don't have a lot of cover. Like I'm in the process of, working through the property, doing the property management, hinge cutting and timber, whatever. I'm in the process of doing all that. But the later in the season we go, the less we have to keep deer. We don't have great late season food sources. We don't have good cover. But when the leaves fall off, like you can see a country mile through our property.
Yeah, it's the same here. Most of my properties, it's wide open oaks, and when the leaves are down, you can see forever.
Yeah.
That's
You
like
have the
one of the things that I thought maybe with Trickster, like how he knew when I was there and when I wasn't, was
Mhm.
access. I was accessing off of a busy road. I was walking through a kind of a wide open area. So it's possible that maybe he was seeing me coming in there, you know what I mean? And that's why he knew when I was leaving and he knew it was safe to go in there. So access is definitely a thing that I think maybe that plays a huge role. I know it plays a huge role if, when
Mhm.
amount of deer you're going to see.
Yeah, I'm actually where I am in Pennsylvania. I'm a big fan of maybe not hunting clear cuts, but I like to be around the clear cut.
Yeah.
Because we all know the clear cut's going to give them food. What I didn't know is in Pennsylvania is a majority of their clear cuts, shelter wood cuts, whatever,
Yeah.
get fenced, and they fence them for however many years they need to allow the seedlings to take a hold.
Yeah, because the deer
Then
melt.
exactly. And then they put the fence, they come and take the fences down. So when you find a clear cut on Onyx or Hunt Stand or whatever app you're using, you don't know what to expect until you get there.
It's true.
So this past week I go out to this one spot and I was so excited. It was a 2-year-old clear cut. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be like 2 feet tall. It's gonna
Yep.
be perfect for browse, perfect for a deer to lay down in, but not where they're gonna spend the day. You know what I mean? I get there, the friggin' thing is fenced off. I go, you got to be kidding me. Like I literally, it's close to my job.
Yeah.
I left work, came all the way home, which is a 50-minute drive just to pick up my dog and take him back. So like I wasted all this time. Like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, fine, buddy, let's just go walk through the woods, whatever.
Yeah.
So I start walking around this clear cut, and all of a sudden it opens up into this pine bottom.
Okay.
And the moment it got away from where everything was just there and it got a little bit thicker, oh my God, there was sign everywhere.
Wow.
Everywhere. So I started walking to one side. It started getting dark. I circled the entire clear cut and came back. So now as I'm walking out, I go, wait a second, I'm walking through a clear cut. This section of the clear cut is fenced off, but this section isn't. So I started talking to my cousin. We broke it down on X or whatever. And I was like, you know what? If this is open, I'm going to walk through the clear cut.
Yeah.
The reason I tell you all of this is because clear cuts are great to hunt.
Yeah.
But clear cuts are also really great to use as access when they're still in their younger phase, right? You're not going to find a deer, like maybe early morning, late evening, you'll find a deer out in the clear cut eating just after first light, last light type of deal.
Yeah.
But in the middle of the day, when the sun is beating down on them and it is just wide open for a country mile,
Yeah.
you are not going to see deer hanging out in that. So that's my point of access. I'm going to give up the clear cut to get to where I want to get
To get where the sign is, you're chasing the sign. Yeah.
100%. And then maybe the clear cut becomes something I sit on a high point during rifle season, somewhere where I could scan, the like you were saying, the transition. I would consider that more of a hard, border rather than a soft border, because you're going from literally nothing to something. But it might be worth checking out.
Yeah.
And I still have like 2 other pockets. What I found is the clear cuts are pretty dead. There's some sign. There's some, like when I say sign, I mean poop. It's either poop or nothing. But once you get out of the clear cut and you start hitting these little pockets of like hardwoods and timber and pine trees, that's where all the sign is. Okay. So I've gone there 2 or 3 times now. I've scouted 2 or 3 different pockets, and every single pocket has produced sign. My problem is I'm really good at finding the sign. Now I don't know what the hell to do with it.
Yeah.
Like there's 3,000 acres of private land that butts up to this.
Oh, wow.
And it's a hunting club. You know what I mean? So I'm sure that gets hit. All the sign tells me he's coming out of there.
I was gonna say that could benefit you because if it's a hunting club that owns it, they're going to be in there, and that's going to be pressure, which is going to you're out of there.
Yep. And my thing is, I'm new here. My wife and I, we just moved out here a year ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that particular spot gets hunted a lot. I mean, there are houses around it, so I don't know if people from the houses come in and hunt. But the specific area that I walked wasn't quite the easiest thing to get to. It was about a mile in from either of the 2 access points, which we all know once you hit that mile, the number of people out there really starts to dial down.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Excuse me. So maybe I'm gonna throw a couple sits at it. I have another spot that's in bigger woods that is very similar. Water, all the sign was along the water. Yep. I want to try to check that out, maybe walk that. But my goal is to try to do as much scouting as I can before the leaves come out. Because once the leaves come out, they hold your scent, you touch them, you brush up against everything. It's hot, it's gross. Yep. That'll be my time of year to worry about my food plots and all that stuff. But 100%. This time where there's nothing on the trees, this is really where I really want to do my scouting.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. What was that?
No, I was just saying it was the perfect time. for sure.
Oh yeah, it's just 100%. Now we're at about an hour and 15 minutes. I want to be respectful of your time. I told you I wanted to get into talking about Kentucky a little bit,
Yep.
but we haven't gotten to it.
Okay.
Would you like to talk about it now? Do you have the time, or do you want to touch on this the next time we meet up, or how would you like to go about that?
Totally up to you. I'm free all day, so don't bother me none.
Okay, so let's not. First off, Kentucky. Just to point out for the listeners, Kentucky was your personal best to date, right?
Yep. And that's this deer right here.
That guy right there. Do you actually have Trickster in there? Is he with you to
Yeah,
give the viewers
yeah.
something to see?
Yep. I was gonna move him, but his bracket's a little bit different on the wall. But
Okay,
that's Trickster right there.
I got you.
Nice mount.
Yeah,
That's another weird deer I got.
What is that? What is that? A double brow on the other one?
He's got this one over
Double
here.
mate being the.
Yeah, he's really neat. I call him Blade because this brow tine right here, it's literally like a giant blade. It's really neat. I killed that deer with a bow too.
That's awesome. Are you primarily a bow hunter?
Yeah. All these deer except for the Kentucky deer was killed with bow.
Okay,
Even my Sika deer that I killed in Maryland was with a bow.
gotcha.
The Kentucky buck, that was rifle, but that was my first. I'm just plugging in my charger again.
You're good.
Yeah, that was my first time like going out of state, or not out of state, out west for deer. It went up being rifle season. It was my buddy's property.
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's save the story of that deer for the next time, because I think that would be really cool, and I don't want to cut it short. Like, it looks like a deer that deserves the time. But what I would like to hear real quick is, going from Jersey to Kentucky, obviously the terrain is different. There's different, stuff growing, maybe some similar, some not. If you could quickly just say a couple things that you were able to take from Jersey and say, hey, it works equally as well or better here in Kentucky. And what are some things that you thought would work when you went to Kentucky that you were like, yeah, I'm leaving that in the car?
So I'm trying to think. What worked for me in Kentucky was same thing with like grunt calling here in Jersey, like a couple soft grunts or whatever. I did have a buck come in out there. It worked the same way as it worked here. I'm coming down from downwind side looking for you. The biggest hurdle for me out there was the terrain. Like where I was hunting it was a small 40-acre parcel that it wasn't super huge, so I didn't have a whole lot of room to explore there, and a lot of the stands were already preset from my buddy's dad who owns the property. But some things that worked for me was a grunt calling. Wanted to try rattling because I don't usually rattle in Jersey, because most of the time, at least from my experience in Jersey, you rattle, the deer running the other direction. At least, some of the smaller pieces here. I have had them check it out once or twice, but I didn't get to try it out there. But what really interested me was the way that the deer move, how they utilize the terrain. So like Jersey, do they use topo? Yeah, they walk, the dips and stuff like that. Transition lines. Out there, it was very mountainous, wide open oaks with some nasty like little swamp stuff down in the bottoms, mountains and stuff. But it was really interesting to see how the deer use the ridges to, look for deer, look for does that they were chasing or whatever. And just like kind of like seeing how they behaved, how they used the terrain to their benefit type of thing. I killed that Kentucky buck. That was the first morning. So I really only hunted until 9:30, 10 o'clock. So I didn't get to experience, unfortunately, like, how you were saying earlier about feeling robbed, when you don't see the deer come in. I'm not complaining about the Kentucky deer. I'm very grateful that I killed them. But I felt like I was slightly robbed of out west, deer hunting because it happened so quick. But I did see a lot of other nice bucks before I killed him. Kentucky, you're only allowed to harvest one buck. That's it.
Right.
So
same thing in PA.
Yeah. So I really only hunted one day, which kind of sucks. But
did you give that buck a name? Did he come up? Did he get a name after? Because obviously you didn't have history with him.
So he doesn't have a name yet. There's a few prospects that my wife is coming up with.
Okay. Hey, listen, happy wife, happy life, right?
100%, 100%.
Yeah, listen, if she lets you hang him on the wall, she gets to name him.
Yeah, I know. The sacrifice, she didn't want me to take down her sign, which is next to him. But so I just scooched it over next to him, so she's happy.
What were you able to film him? Is that hunt on film also?
Yeah, that hunt's on YouTube. Okay. I think the title of that video is I'll tell you right now so you can find it. My first Kentucky rifle hunt, and I put in parentheses new PB buck. So that's on there as well, that video.
All right, I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah, check it out. I got to share some cool moments with my, over the phone with my dad after shooting him and stuff, and my wife and stuff, because it was my biggest buck. So It was really cool. Had a good time.
Awesome, man. I mean, that sounds great. And my thing is, while there are a lot of deer in Jersey, okay, what I found is that most of the concentrated population of deer are all in places that you can't hunt them.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's areas that are no hunting or it's private land that, you can't hunt or whatever. So as great as our hunting opportunities are in Jersey, and when I say that, for listeners who don't know, you can shoot like $7 a year, and depending on where you are in Jersey, you could literally shoot an unlimited amount of doe.
Yeah.
Like that is our hunting opportunity in Jersey.
Just my zone alone, I can shoot 9 does in my zone that I hunt here in Jersey in just with bow, like bow season. You know what I mean? It's nuts.
And also, there's not just one bow season. There's 3 different bow seasons.
3 different bow seasons.
And I think each one you can shoot 9 doe.
Yeah.
So it's like
you got your early bow, September into October, and then I think right around Halloween turns into permit bow. And then you have winter bow, which is the whole month of January for me. So you have, that's 3 buck tags right there just for bow, 9 does each, which is insane. And then, I hunt shotgun week as well. Like I'm a president of a gun club here in Jersey. So we go out and hunt deer with the club and stuff. So you get to do that. I also enjoy going out with the muzzleloader and hunting for them too. So I do it all across the board. So I have plenty of opportunities to harvest deer, which is nice. It's just finding the deer sometimes can be a little challenging, but
I got you.
I definitely enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't enjoy it, you wouldn't still be doing it, right? Last thing before we wrap up this video.
Yeah.
If there is somebody either new to hunting or new to hunting in New Jersey, what would your number one tip be of something to do? And what would your number one tip be of something to absolutely stop, like keep yourself from doing?
Okay. That's a good question. Something that I would tell them to absolutely do is to put in the time and be patient. It's not going to happen right away, especially if you're a new bow hunter or a new hunter in general. You have to learn from your mistakes as a new hunter. So you're not going to go in and be some professional right away. I've been hunting 20 years, and every time I go in the woods, I learn something new. So I would definitely say that, like, put in the time, scout, learn about the deer that you're chasing, you know what I mean? Like, learn how their behavior. That way, you need to learn about what you're chasing, you know what I mean? How they behave and stuff like that. And to put in the time and be patient and learn from every hunt. It would be what I would tell them to do. To not do, that would be, so this will probably be a controversial answer.
Oh, we love controversy.
Yeah. Would be scent control. Don't go absolutely crazy with scent control, because no matter all the products on the market, like, don't get me wrong, I take scent control serious. I do. But at the end of the day, no matter what, as for a new hunter, you know what I mean, particularly, you're never going to beat a deer's nose. They're always going to win. It's just one of those things. I would say don't take that extremely serious, at least to begin with. Like, definitely take some initiative to try to help, but because some guys go absolutely nuts with it.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, I get it, and me too. Like because my win during most of bow season, like my one property, how it's set up is just poor. Like it's a lot of field to my right and a small little acre, like 5-6 acres of woods, and the wind there is just like the dominant direction is north. I believe it's north there, and it's like the complete opposite of what I need. But it's like, what am I never going to hunt it? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I hunt it sometimes in bad winds, but so I have to take it seriously. Has it helped me? Yes. At times it doesn't. They still get you, you know what I mean? But that would be one of the things I would say. Either that or just don't have extremely high expectations that you're going to go out and shoot a 200 deer right off the rip. Like, I mean, I've been hunting 20 years, and this like Kentucky buck is probably like 120, 130. And that's the biggest buck I've ever killed in 20 years. But I don't really go out of state a whole lot. This year, I finally went out and was able to go to West Virginia. I was able to go to Kentucky. I went to Maryland a couple years ago. So starting to experiment and travel.
Oh man, that's awesome. And my big thing when it comes to scent, because that's great. It's like, if you're a new hunter, don't go down the rabbit hole everywhere you can. Like, do the best you can. Don't overdo it. Go outside. My biggest thing, enjoy yourself. Whatever you're going to do, enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Like, set your expectations realistically, like you said, and just enjoy yourself. And for me, when it comes to scent control, I know 100% I will never beat a deer's nose. They will always smell me. But if I can make them think I'm 300 yards away instead of 30 yards away, that's that extra 10 steps I need to get
Exactly. I mean, that could be the difference of harvesting a deer or not.
Exactly.
It could give you a little extra time to get it done. And,
exactly. Well, Steve, I want to thank you so much for joining us here today. This is a really great conversation. I
Yeah.
really had a great time talking about Jersey again because it's been a little bit. I've been focused on Pennsylvania being out here and stuff.
Yeah.
If our listeners want to follow you through your journey, through your hunting journey, where can they find you, and what are some things that maybe they can expect coming from Milo Outdoors here in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So ways you could find me is my YouTube channel. It's Milo Outdoors, or you can search Milo Outdoors Productions and it'll come up. On the channel, you're going to expect, hunting trips, hunting videos. I've been trying to do more of tutorials on like product reviews or how to turkey call, how to do this, how to do that. So I'm trying to broaden my content for a little bit of everybody. You'll see fishing videos, turkey hunting videos. There's going to be a lot of those coming up because turkey season's right around the corner,
Mhm.
and I got a lot of tags in my pockets.
Yeah.
Excited for that. You can also catch me on Facebook and Instagram, Milo Outdoors. On Facebook and I believe Instagram, it's Milo Outdoors Productions. Yeah, check me out. If you guys got any questions, if people have any questions or want to reach out to me, feel free to send me a message. I try to answer every comment and every message. And, if you like the videos, subscribe.
Great, man. We love that. And actually, to end it here, I actually had something written down on one of these pages because literally, as I was watching the video, I was like, okay, I need to know about this, and I'm curious about this. And one of the things I wrote here is I really like your editing style. It's nothing crazy. It's not, it's not over the top. But what I really like is instead of pausing the video and talking and then going back to the video, you kind of just put up these like, this is what happened. It's like, you're narrating it, but like with words, like it's written across the
Yeah.
screen instead of, talking over it. So it was, in my opinion, it was a really nice way of kind of sharing information without having to stop the story and having it all choppy and stuff. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I try to keep it smooth and I try to make like every video I try to do better. So it's just going to get better. Like I said, I got a new camera now. The quality is going to be even better. I'm really
Okay.
excited about that. I just put out a video on a new sponsor that I'm working with. It's a company called True Dave. They
Mhm.
do. They offer all kinds of deck boots, hunting boots, stuff like that. So I filmed that with the new video camera, and it came out awesome. So I'm really
That's
excited
great, man.
to use that camera during turkey season and put out some really good videos for everybody.
Okay. When we get off air here, I'll pull out my camera. We'll compare because I have a Panasonic also. I have a Lumix as well, so
Oh,
we'll have
cool.
to compare that stuff. Yeah. So, guys, this was the very first episode of the Northeastern Hunter Profile series. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys got some um, value out of it. And like I said at the very beginning of this podcast, our goal was to shed some light on the Northeast and show the rest of the country, the rest of the world, that we do have a place in the outdoors up here. And up to this point, I feel like I haven't lived up to that, to be completely honest. So I'm hoping to be able to bring you more of those individual, unique hunter profiles. I'm looking from basically Virginia to Maine. So if you guys are listening to this and you feel like you have something to share from the Northeast region that other people would love to hear, reach out to me, man. You guys know where to find me. With that being said, if you like what you heard today, scroll on down to the bottom there. Leave a nice 5-star review, nice written review. It really goes a long way for us. It helps kind of keep us in the chips here in the podcasting world, if you will. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. If there's something you want to hear or a guest you'd like us to have on the show, let me know and I'll do my best to make it happen. Until next time, have a great week. And remember, success is just a commitment away. See you later.